Welcome to Sipoc analysis. Sipoc analysis is a high-level process map which describes the relationship in conjunction with suppliers, inputs, process, outputs, and customers. One application of the Sipoc analysis is that it can identify relationships between the supplier's inputs and the process. It helps us to determine and identify key customers, both internal and external, and allows you to see the relationship between the customer's, supplier's inputs, process, and outputs. Sipoc analysis helps us to identify boundaries, both for the process and for those who interact with the process as well. It serves as a high-level process map, and it can be used to identify additional information such as requirements. Suppliers are people, organizations. They supply information, resources. They help to transform the process. Suppliers are providers. Inputs are ingredients that transform the process. They consist of procedures, policies, contributions by other people, materials, settings, and so forth. Processes are those actions or activities that transform the inputs into the outputs, which are valued by the customer. Processes include things like operations, tasks, methods, and so on. Outputs are something that we receive. They can also be called outcome or results. Outcomes can become the inputs for the next stage in the process. Customers are receivers of the process. They're made up of people, systems, operations, and they receive downstream the outputs from the process. Often they're called receivers, stakeholders, or users. Attaches a baseline Sipoc diagram. Creating a Sipoc high-level process map, you first need to identify the process, and then identify 4 to 5 high-level phases or steps of that process. We're going to be looking at the process for making a hamburger. We begin with 5 steps. In step 2, we identify the customer. We define that by name, title, or organizational entity, whoever is recipient of the outputs. In our case, people who want hamburgers. In step 2, we identify the customer, and we define that customer by name, title, or organizational entry. In step 2, we identify the customer. The Sipoc diagram now contains 5 process steps and associated 5 customers. Step 3, name the outputs, such as the actual hamburger itself, if you'd like a cheeseburger with cheese added, soft drink, french fries, and so on. Step 3, name the outputs. We update the Sipoc diagram with the outputs, and we now have the process steps, the outputs, and the customers. In step 4, we define the inputs to the process, such as the staff, the customer, and ingredients. In step 3, we identify the inputs, such as the staff, the suppliers, and so on. The Sipoc is almost complete. We now have inputs, process, outputs, and customers. For step 6, we identify the suppliers, that is the source of the inputs, such as suppliers of ingredients, any kind of regulators that are involved, any of our supply chain partners. The Sipoc is now complete. Suppliers, inputs, process, outputs, and customers. Take a few minutes to examine the Sipoc complete diagram. As an enhancement, one can include the requirements to the Sipoc. Be sure that requirements are added both for outputs and inputs. Here's an example of a Sipoc diagram with requirements. Notice how this adds to the Sipoc diagram and also prepares you to move to the next step in the DMAIC process. Time to take a test. Sipoc can be best described as keep trying until you get the right answer. Name the 5 elements of the Sipoc diagram. Keep trying till you get the right answer. When finished, move on to the next question. Read the question carefully before making a selection. Along with this section comes knowledge management. If you're interested in reading more about Sipocs, there's an internet link that you can go to. There are also videos on how to do a Sipoc diagram. And we would recommend that you complete a preliminary Sipoc on the case study that you're using during this Greenbelt class.